Phoenix Park Circuit like a triangle, and all three straights are a different length. You can see now Fitzgerald's car there in front of Michael Leonard's car. That is mounted on the front wing of the car, so we have two different types of cameras. One on the inside, Cullen coming down to this very tight Furry Glen bend, which is much like the Ratra on the old circuit. And again, Barrable just getting in, and that again, everybody, both camera cars getting in the wars there, Alan.
Well, it was expected at Furry Glen, and it certainly happened. So we're now travelling along, you might say, at high speed on the bonnet of Michael Leonard's car. We've now moved inside to Michael Barrable's car as we go up this frightening tunnel of trees up towards Mountjoy Corner, and here come the leaders.
The leader, it is Michael Cullen from Stephen Griffin. This is one of the quickest corners on the circuit. The Dublin corner and the Furry Glen, very tight indeed. But Michael Leonard just leaving his braking very late, and you can see the adverse camera there which shows you out towards the grass. But that's O'Connell in front of him as they head for Dublin corner. Again, a first gear bend. Griffin on the outside, the quickest line, but where Michael Cullen is, I don't think Griffin can do anything about it.
This old park, Phoenix Park Circuit, has been rather unkindly described as a sort of point and squirt place. You've really got three hairpins, but as you can see, it requires a lot of skill because cars really don't have a lot of room. They certainly don't have a lot of grip, and particularly as you're heading towards a corner like the Furry Glen, which we're about to come to, you'll see that braking is very, very difficult indeed.
Yes, and we're on that back straight heading towards the Furry Glen. This is the longest straight on the circuit, so the braking a little bit earlier because you're going quicker. As you come in here, some of these drivers might be using the handbrake just to get the back of the car just slightly slung around. But look at young Dave Maguire there moving up on Steve Griffin in second place. Barrable coming in there through that hairpin. You can see Leonard now coming through, and he's really gained ground, O'Connell, in the hairpin. Michael really using the last of the brakes as he comes down there, and a brave manoeuvre because there's not much runoff area. They're heading their way up to just a slight kink, and who's that pulling off? It is Morgan Dempsey Sr., who's taken over his daughter's car just for this race as the leaders fly by back out onto the Dublin straight again as Griffin from Maguire as they head for Dublin corner.
And indeed, an awful lot of attrition here at Phoenix Park. It's very rough on transmissions. As you can see, the banging they get off the curves and over the bumps. But moving ahead to lap 7, and you can see it's all about the first two. Michael Cullen in the DC exhaust car, and there is Stephen Griffin in the Dagonite Batteries car in second place. And what a weekend it has been for David Maguire there in third place, who's already won 2 races this weekend.
David Hammond there just making up this next bunch, and they're really pushing each other around, and you can see that if you come in that little bit later any of the corners, the cars tend to understeer, and with the camber falling away you're going to end up on the grass.
Heading back down towards Furry Glen again. It looks wider in this camera than it really is, and here comes Cullen. He's got a couple of car lengths now over Steve Griffin, both highly experienced, and Cullen locking up there, Griffin giving him a little tap in the back just to remind him that he was there. Still in third place, David Maguire, an excellent drive by him.
And that might wake Michael Cullen up. In fairness, he did lock a wheel, and Griffin presumed he would have gone on a little quicker, but they've settled back down, and I think Dave Maguire should have capitalised a little more on that incident. But look at this, Hammond now really coming through the street. Now it's just a little kink there. It looks like a straight, but it's a little slight left-hander as you come through, and then come straight out onto that main straight again. As I said, the quickest corner on the circuit.
So the first two in a slight breakaway movement at the moment as they go up this wide main straight. The start-finish is just about there. They head down another lap, and this is where all the tactics are required, down into Dublin corner. Steve Griffin tries to come on a very late line, a very wide line, in the hope of getting quickly out of the corner, but Michael Cullen's too wise for that. He puts on a little brake quite legitimately, and it really means that Stephen doesn't have that run out of the corner.
And the next bunch led there by David Hammond, and then it's Patrick Dunn really on his tail, bumping there away. We're going through again. It's O'Connell then followed by Eugene Healy, who's beginning to move up the field. These really bunched up together, and that battle is for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th.
Here's the battle for first. No change down at Furry Glen, not just quite as close as the last time. I would imagine Michael Cullen will be glad of that. Still there in third place, Maguire, David Maguire, who's come from karting. He's really one of the finds of the year. David Hammond, number 8. He's been in Fiats for a long time. Behind him, number 39, that's Patrick Dunn. And then a whole gaggle. There we have number 5, Noel McIntyre, another new name from Mullingar.
Back out again onto this main Dublin road, and it's superb to see the Phoenix Park back in operation again after a year layoff. They're heading down. This is the shortest straight on the circuit, so again you have to judge your braking really good. And again, Griffin looking at that outside line, hoping possibly that Michael might just overshoot slightly, could nip across the back, but no, Cullen too wise for that manoeuvre. Actually, I think lifted off slightly in the corner there just so they couldn't get around the back. But these four have now pulled away from the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th race battle, which is on now.
And, almost side by side as they come through Dublin that time. Eugene Heary at the back there finding no gap. And this is Michael Leonard. He's very wide. He's off the circuit. He's heading for the hoarding. How did he miss it? But that's what can happen at the Phoenix Park.
All down to the camera of the road, come in there side by side as they come down to the Furry Glen. Unfortunately, Griffin on the wrong side. Cullen keeps that inside line really tight, and Griffin is pushing him all the way to Dublin corner for the last time. Can he do anything about Michael Cullen? Will it be another win for Michael Cullen, or can Griffin get one second one this year?
Meanwhile, the war is back in 5th place. Number 5, McIntyre, being pushed onto the grass there. Really having no Eugene Heary trying to find a way round. And this is what the Ferry Glen looks like from the bumper cam.
Yes, sitting out there on the bumper of Michael Leonard's car as they head down from the Furry Glen. Last time for Cullen and Griffin. Griffin very close on his tail as they make for the checkered flag. The starter and finisher waiting just to see who it is. You can see Cullen trying to break the toe so that Griffin won't get the advantage. And it's Cullen by a car length.
So Michael Cullen takes the Evening Press Trophy in his home city and also has the satisfaction of knowing that he's already won the first Dunlop Fiat Uno Cup. Coming shortly in RPM, stone throwing in Tipperary, where the new National Rally Champion is crowned, and hill climbing on the north coast on the Eagles Rock Weekend. Keep the revs up.
Gavin comes through on the outside as they run up towards Hatchett's hairpins for the first time. Now this is where everything could go wrong behind them. Hard on the brakes then, into the right hand. Are they all going to avoid making contact? Well, they have done so far. Gavin leads Burt then as they go out of the hairpin. Charging through to Benny Bend, and in the lead is Oliver Gavin. Second is Burt, third is Steve Arnold, up to fourth Mark Goosens. So Calvin Burt, having made a bad start, is now trying to find his way back onto terms with Oliver Gavin, who was away like a shot. Out of Brooklands hairpin they come. The field filing through. A good start from Jeremy Dufour. Gareth Rees a long way down. So is Paul Evans with his unloved Reynard. Jamie Spence also a long way down after a bad start. So here they come through into Honda Curve for the first time. Marcos Gueroff essays to make them a place on the inside of Mark Goosens. Can't do it. He's under pressure now from Warren Hughes as they come down towards Hatchett's hairpin for the second time. Gavin in the lead. Second place man Calvin Burt, who's already dropping away from the Vauxhall Powder Lara into the clutches of Steve Arnold, who is third with the Honda Powder Lara. Heading now towards Benny Bend, and Calvin Burt scratching his head a little bit and thinking, why am I so much slower than I was in practice? The field fighting through. Jeremy Dufour there, the French teenager, runs wide onto the curbs in his efforts to keep Scott Lakin at bay. Into Brooklands hairpin then comes Oliver Gavin, being very careful now not to make a mistake. And someone that's made a mistake there, off into the tyres, is the Greek driver, Kostas Lazarakis. And looking at the state from the back of the car, he is out of the race. Into Honda Curve then, Gavin pulling away, Burt second, Arnold third, fourth is Goosens, fifth is still Warren Hughes, and going through sixth, the final point scorer, Andre Ribeiro, as the rest of the field file through, with Christian Horner at the moment leading Class B. There is Steve Watson with the Bowman behind Chris Clark, and Jamie Spence a long way down and looking as though he's not going to finish this race, which means he won't win the championship here this weekend. The field running wide onto the curve. Battle now, though, as Marcos Gueroff tries to find a way past Andre Ribeiro. The field filing through. Christian Horner there leading Class B, catching up to Paul Evans. As into Brooklands hairpin comes Oliver Gavin. A very high curve on the inside of that corner. They all run wide, touch the concrete on the outside of it as we see a replay of Kostas Lazarakis going backwards off the circuit and crunch into the tyre wall. And that hasn't done a great deal of good to him.